Hi, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. I'm Janet Lancaster. I'm starting a new series called Correcting Misinformation About a Fire District. And what you're going to see today is a clip taken from a recent Josephine County Board of Commissioners meeting. After the clip, I'm going to come back on and explain some of the misinformation that was in the video. Stay tuned.
At the same time, I want to clarify with you both, having sat on the Governor's Wildfire Council Committee on Suppression, Oregon Department of Forestry is responsible for and works with mutual aid all the fire agencies in the community, including rural metro and county fire. They have mutual aid agreements with for wildland fire and that wildland urban interface area, the WUI. But what Merlin was listed as number one risk was the forest lands and the forest fires. And yes, all those fire districts respond to keep them safe. But what they're asking to form is a structural fire district that does not have the contractor obligation to fight the wildfires in the forest. That is on the Oregon Department of Forestry. Now, Oregon Department of Forestry will call upon help to do that, but this doesn't change the circumstance of the wildland fire risk to create a structural fire district. They're two separate things.
So you just saw a clip from a Josephine County Board of Commissioners meeting that took place last Wednesday. And in that clip, you heard some misinformation about our current state and perhaps how it relates to a fire district. Well, in the 10 or 15 seconds that it's taken me to start this video, I have walked from a 40-acre parcel of BLM or federal land onto my property. In fact, there's 19 homes that surround that 40-acre parcel of land, that public land. And so for that reason, wildfire and private property structural protection are very closely related. Wildfires can move from public lands onto private lands and from private lands onto public lands. And in Josephine County and much of the Rogue Valley, our land ownership follows a checkerboard pattern. Private land ownership mixed with public land ownership. For that reason, wildfire and structural fire protection are very closely related. The other point has to do with mutual aid. The Oregon Department of Forestry is a signer to the Rogue Valley Fire Chiefs Association Mutual Aid Agreement, as is Rural Metro Fire. And so in fact, as part of that agreement, when a fire is called in, the closest unit responds. And in some cases, that may be one of the private fire service providers, specifically Rural Metro, since they are a signer to the mutual aid agreement, depending on where the call is located. I hope that clears up the connection between wildfire and structural fire protection. Here's the transcription of what Commissioner Morgan just said. Let me correct and clarify some of the misinformation in here. Quote, at the same time, I want to clarify with you both, having sat on the Governor's Wildfire Council Committee on Suppression. Oregon Department of Forestry is responsible for and works with mutual aid. All the fire agencies in the community, including rural metro and county fire, they have mutual aid agreements, brings with wildland fire, and that wildland urban interface area, the WUI. So what I know about Commissioner Morgan's involvement with the Governor's Council on Wildfire is that she was the only person representing Josephine County. The council was started in January. There were 3 subcommittees. Commissioner Morgan was on the suppression subcommittee. And on August 15th, that was the date when Commissioner Morgan's subcommittee presented to the wider council I learned about it on the 15th. Otherwise, I would have gone to Salem to hear about it. Nonetheless, I did send an email to Commissioner Morgan and asked about learning what was shared in that meeting. And you can see the email I sent her. And she replied to me that she was unable to attend yesterday's meeting in Salem due to our county fair. The other piece of misinformation that I need to clarify is on mutual aid. And I'm surprised that Commissioner Morgan doesn't know this, but both rural metro and county fire do not have mutual aid agreements. Rural Metro Fire has a mutual aid agreement, is part of the Rogue Valley Fire Chiefs Association mutual automatic aid agreement, Jackson, Josephine Counties. That's what you're looking at here. I'm happy to provide a copy of this to anybody that would like it. And I am going to scroll to the signature page. They've had various signers at different dates over time, 1992, 1998. They've added and deleted various agencies. And here are the signers to the Rogue Valley Fire Chiefs Association Mutual Automatic Aid Agreement. So, and it's listed alphabetically. And you can see that Rural Metro Fire Department is a signer to the mutual aid agreement. Let's continue. But what Merlin was listed as #1 risk was the forest lands and the forest fires. And yes, all those fire districts respond to keep them safe. But what they're asking to form is a structural fire district that does not have the contractor obligation to fight the wildfires in the forest that is on the Oregon Department of Forestry. That Oregon Department of Forestry will call upon to do that. But this doesn't change the circumstance of the wildland fire risks to create structural fire districts. They're two separate things. So the first thing is this sentence that says, but what Merlin was listed as #1 risk was the forest lands and the forest fires. That seems to imply that that report had to do with the woods, the forests, and not the human risk. If anybody would like a copy of this report, once again, I'm happy to send it to you or send you the link. You can see the link right up here. The title of the report uses the word human communities. Okay, so that should be the first clue that it's not just about the woods. If you go through the report, there's several references to human communities. It has to do with population and people. And I'm going to scroll to, here's one of the maps in the report, and I'm going to scroll right here to this graph. On the one hand, it has housing units in the community, and housing units infer that there's people living in dwellings. That's what a house is, right? And then the mean annual burn probability. The probability, it's a math term. So this report relies on science, facts, and math. The report was not referring to just forests and forest lands. It's referring to the risk of human communities to wildfire, specifically looking at communities in the wildland-urban interface. That's the first thing about that. The second thing has to do with forming a structural fire district. I don't know what a structural fire district is. Rural Metro is an all hazards fire department. County Fire does not do all the things that Rural Metro does. It doesn't provide as many services. I don't know if you would call them a structural fire department, but one of the things that committee members have talked about from the beginning is that the 2/3 of the people in the unprotected area that have voted with their dollars by way of subscriptions to rural metro, they have said, we want an all hazards fire department. We want more than just protecting our homes. We want firefighters to be able to do interior attacks on structures. We want our firefighters to be able to do lift assists and respond to car accidents and to do hazmat and to do technical rescues. That's what an all hazards fire department is at a high level. So I sent Commissioner Morgan an email on Thursday, April 30th, and asked her specifically, but what they're asking to form is a structural fire district. I don't know who they are, because they does not refer to the fire protection committee that's been meeting since November. So maybe she has another group that she's advocating for. That seems to kind of be what it has been like from the beginning, is that there's some undercurrent, there's some other plan that we don't know about. Nonetheless, there is most definitely a connection between wildfire and structural fire protection. Mutual aid is imperative to make fire protection in the unprotected area, and in fact throughout Josephine County, work. Merlin is at risk. It's the people and our homes in Merlin and all of the North Valley and West Grants Pass that are at risk. And we are not looking for a structural fire protection district. We want an all hazards fire district. That's what 2/3 of the people enjoy today. I hope this helps clarify some of the misinformation that's been put out into the community.